Last time at 15, we went to that big Crystal Palace. Maybe I'll do that. Nah, I've already been there. Let's go someplace else. And you have all this sort of just mental wishy-washy drifting through your mind. When you're dealing with your navigation tool, your compass for your experience, you want to make it a physical, solid thing. And the way to do that, one of the ways to do that is to objectify it. Make a physical object out of it. What I'm talking about is saying out loud. When you talk, you create molecular movement. You've converted your thoughts into molecular physical movement with sound waves. When you write it down or draw it or sketch it, you are making it a physical object. So writing down your affirmation maybe just before you get in the check unit is a way to be physicalizing it. Okay, so this objectify, present tense, active voice, positive statements, done in auditory consciousness, and objectified. So we've gone through, what, 3 things now in our recipe for this chocolate cake or this Hemi-Sync process. First thing that's important is to get physically relaxed, to pay attention to your breathing, to set your intent. And the 4th thing is that of turning on your internal perceptual processes. Turning on your internal perceptual processes. Now this all comes from a rather dated psychological theory. I like to use the concept of theory because things change over the years. It's just a theory. But this one happens to be expletive of what I want to say, so I'll pull that one out of my pocket and use that theory. Sensory integration. Now this theory says that I identify with who I am, my identity, how I know myself. I know myself through constantly, repeatedly answering the questions in my head, subconsciously. Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Constantly. Who am I? I'm skipping out. What am I doing? I'm giving a laughter lecture. How do I feel about myself? Oh, I'm pretty good. I haven't messed up yet. I've got everything in order on my fingers. It's all written down right there. Present tense, active voice, positive statements. Yeah. Got all the list. That's good. Okay, go on to the next point now. Skip. Okay, fine. Here we go. Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? I'm constantly refreshing my concept of self. Oh my goodness, I stumbled. This is horrible. Oh no, I picked my nose. Oh, I look awful. So, who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Who am I? What am I doing? How do I feel about myself? Constantly reinforcing this. Now, where do I get information to answer those questions? I get that information from my 5 physical senses. What I see, what I hear, what I taste, what I smell. From my senses, I collect the information to answer the question. Who am I? What am I doing? And how do I feel about myself? That's the theory of sensory integration. I create my identity out of that information that I am collecting. Now, what happens when you go into the check unit? You go to focus 10 and you purposefully, with intent, turn off all your 5 physical senses. Okay? It sort of looks like this. I think some of you may have experienced this. You're going 3, wishy, 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 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, awake and alert, awake and alert. Take some notes in your journal and come on down to the conference room and we'll discuss this last exercise. I get the idea that some of you may have experienced something like that. Like really short exercise. You see, if you don't turn on your internal perceptual processes, the thing that you know as you doesn't exist. Therefore, how can you have any experience? But they all have big, heavy lids. Okay? Now, where did you get that? You got it from inside. You created it. You imagined it. You may think it's sort of pretend now if you want to. Later on the course, you might think, oh, it might not be so just pretend as I thought it was. But for right now, it doesn't matter. For right now, what does matter is that you created that from inside you. You turned on your internal perceptual processes so that you could have a security repository box. That's why it's important to move through this recipe, these exercises, and not leave out any steps. Now, what are some other things that are sort of like that, your internal perceptual processes? Well, the resonant energy balloon, you create that yourself, right? Your internal perceptual processes. How about your deck dolphin, your energy bar tool? You create that yourself. The living body map. All of those things depend upon your internal production of those from your internal senses. But you must turn those senses on lest you don't exist. You knowing yourself as something doesn't exist if you don't have any information to define that. You've turned off your physical senses. You have to get it from your internal perceptual process. Else, okay. Now, let's start the list over again here. So we're going to go physical relaxation, pay attention to breathing, set your intent, turn on your internal perceptual processes. And the last thing in the recipe, or the chocolate part of the recipe we're going to talk about, is the sound, the binaural beat sound. I notice I don't have my little remote button pusher here, so I'll go back here. A sound coming in one ear, and a sound coming in the other ear. And it's the difference in frequency between the sound in one ear and the sound in the other ear that yields this phenomena called binaural beating. Now, this is a very unique auditory phenomenon because in one earphone, the wah 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 doesn't exist. It's just wah. In the other earphone, the wah 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 doesn't exist. It's just the wah. But when you put them together, the brain creates this sound, this warbling sound. Okay? And that's very different than if the warbling sound is created from two speakers. Because then the sound is coming together from the speakers, interfering with each other, wave interference patterns create, and even if you had just one ear, you would hear wah, 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 wah. That's not binaural beating. That's monaural beating. It's only when it happens inside your brain that we refer to it as binaural beating. But I'm not saying one is like super better than the other. I mean, people have been chanting for millennia. People have been beating drums and dancing for millennia. It's just that now, from the 20th century forward, we invented these things called earphones so we could create binaural beats. But this idea of one sound and the other sound added together is probably illustrated.
I got a question, Skip. Is it like a harmonic of the two frequencies or no?
Harmonic, no, because a harmonic would be, in our understanding, divided by octaves and thirds and fifths and so forth and so on. This is offset just by a few cycles per second. In this case, 4 cycles per second. The determination of how wide apart you can make the two sounds is based on the physiology of the animal to which the sound is exposed. So in human beings, we can hear binaurally from 0 to about 20 cycles per second. A bird with a little teeny tiny head can hear from about 30 to 60 or 80 cycles per second, but can't hear the low frequencies. An elephant with a great big head hears very low frequencies, but doesn't get above about 8 cycles per second because the cranium is so large. It all has to do with the fact that we got built, these machines got built, to be able to detect the direction of sound. Now, in humans, if the sound is over about 1,200 cycles per second, we tell the direction of the sound by the loudness. It bounces off the outside of the ear and we detect, oh, it's louder over there, so the sound must be coming over there. But if it's below about 1,200 cycles per second, we tell the loudness by the difference in the phase of the wave. This very low sound comes rolling in here. It goes in this ear, and then it wraps around our head and goes in this ear.